world, welcome back to another video. Today I want to present to you all the books that I read in April. I went on a bit of a dystopian binge in April. In fact, I think I only read one book that wasn't a dystopian novel. The first book that I read is Annihilation by Vandermeer. The bookshop that I work for, the American Book Centre, had a stand at Dutch Comic Con, and Jeff and Anne Vandermeer were also at the stand to sign books and to give autographs to people, I suppose. And I already wanted to read this book beforehand, but when I saw everyone and their grandmother walking around with it, that really kind of solidified my need, so I picked it up. This book is about a nature area, I suppose, called Area X, hence the X. And we follow the 12th expedition into this area, which consists of 4 people, 4 women, a surveyor, an anthropologist, a psychologist, and a biologist who is the narrator of the story. I don't actually know what a surveyor is, which is why I hesitated. I experienced this book as very strange. It's definitely not easy to get through, and it doesn't give you any answers. Basically, you don't know what's going on ever. The narrator, the biologist, sometimes offers up theories, but you don't really know anything for certain. Even at the end of the book, you don't know the names of any of the characters. There are 2 more books in this series, but I don't know if I want to read those as well. They're not sequels in the sense that they pick up where this book left off. They're more like related stories. Anyway, I rated this book 4 out of 5 stars on Goodreads because it was a very engrossing read, and I did find myself unable to stop reading. Next up in April, I read Saint Anything by Sarah Dessen in this ARC edition, even though the book has been out for ages, which is the only non-dystopian read of the month. I would classify this as contemporary YA, which is not something that I tend to gravitate towards or tend to enjoy, but there is something about the mature and calm way in which this book is written, and the fact that it deals with some very serious issues as well that, I don't know, really worked for me. So the story is about a girl named Sydney whose brother has a history of addiction, and he's currently in prison because of something that he did while under the influence. And Sydney has this feeling that she can't escape his actions, that she's always living in his shadow, even at home where her mother is borderline obsessive with like lawyers and phone calls and programs and everything. So she decides to change schools and to make new friends, and that's really what this book is about. She meets this crazy family who own an unassuming pizza place that makes the best pizza in town. Fair warning, this book is going to make you crave Italian food so much. I ended up rating this book 5 out of 5 stars because I enjoyed it immensely and I just couldn't find fault with it. It's a quick read and I definitely recommend it if you like something that's light-hearted and feel good but doesn't shy away from the difficult bits of life. Then I read The Last of Us by Rob Ewing. This is also an ARC. Yeah, the title is over here. Anyway, this book came out a couple of weeks ago, I think April 21st. It's about a remote Scottish island in the aftermath of a virus that wiped out most of humanity, or at least that's what I'm guessing. On this island, a group of children are the only ones left alive. The youngest is 6 years old and he's a diabetic, which is obviously a problem because their supply of insulin is finite. The story is told by Rona, who is 8 years old, and it's told in a very unpretentious, straightforward, childlike way, which makes the horrors that these children have to go through even more harrowing. It's an island, so they have to make do with the food supplies and other supplies that they can scavenge from people's homes. But there wasn't really any relief effort because it's such a remote location, so a lot of people that died are still in their houses. There's a lot of talk about smells and avoiding bad smells, but what it really boils down to is that there's a really disgusting world out there that the children somehow have to survive in. I rated this book 4 out of 5 stars, mostly because it's written so well. It's really cleverly done. Next, I picked up The Passage by Cronin. I made this into a blind book date at work, but I was so intrigued by the premise that I also wanted to read it myself. There are multiple timelines. The first one is kind of set in our time, although I think at the time the book was written, it was supposed to be like a super near future kind of thing. Anyway, that timeline deals with a government experiment aimed at prolonging people's lives or even making people immortal by using some kind of bat venom or something to do with bats. But the experiment goes very wrong when the test subjects, also known as virals, escape the facility and start killing and multiplying. The second timeline is set 90-something years in the future from the first one. There's this colony of people in California that has somehow grown out of a group of evacuees that was first kind of put there, and they survived because they have super high walls and bright lights. They've kind of evolved into a new type of society over the years, but now that's also unraveling. This book is not an easy read. It's massive for starters. It has almost 800 pages and my arm is getting really tired from holding it up for you guys. It's also very important to keep your facts straight because there are a lot of different people and places and different timelines, so it's easy to get stuff mixed up. It's also a part 1, so even though this is a pretty self-contained story, it doesn't answer all the questions it raises because some of them are left for future books. I ended up rating this book 5 out of 5 stars because I absolutely loved it. If you like dystopian that has some action but is not all action, then this is definitely a book for you. It also reminded me of The Girl with All the Gifts, except that it went a lot further. After I finished The Passage, I decided to continue with The 12 by Justin Cronin, which is the sequel to The Passage. This edition appears tiny in comparison to part 1 that I just showed you, but don't be fooled because this edition actually has close to 600 pages. This book starts off 5 years after the end of the events of The Passage, but like The Passage, it also has multiple timelines and multiple points of view, even more so I'd say than its prequel. So again, it's very important to keep paying attention because I found myself having to flip back a couple of times to figure out who the hell I was actually reading about, even though I just finished The Passage and didn't read anything else in between. So it's kind of complicated. I think it's a worthy sequel because it answers some of the questions that you're left with after part 1, but it also raises some new ones because there is going to be a part 3 which comes out in June, I think. And it's interesting enough in itself that it's not just an in-between book. I did think it was a little bit too pretentious sometimes, and I could really see the hand of the author, which isn't always a bad thing because he is the author and he has the right to be present in his own book, but I prefer to be completely sucked into the world of a book. I like it to be very immersive. Anyway, I rated it 4 out of 5 stars because even though I didn't love it as much as The Passage, I still think it was a good sequel with complex characters that were intelligently written, and I can't wait for part 3. So these are all the books I read in April, 5 of them in total, which means that I'm still ahead in my Goodreads reading challenge goal thing, which makes me very happy and childishly proud. If you read anything cool in April or you want to talk to me about the books that I read, please do so in the comments down below and let's get chatting. I don't know what that was. Thank you for watching this video. I hope you liked it and I will see you again next time. Bye!